this time, we ask that you please rise and remove your hats as we honor America with singing our national anthem. Playing our national anthem.
I knew that I wanted more. My name is Charlotte Reese and I am the owner of Viva et Morgan. We specialize in selling traditional and
Hello and welcome to Charlotte, North Carolina. We're at Dixon Field in the Queen City, ready for a rugby doubleheader. First off, the Queens Royals, the women's team, taking on Mount St. Mary's, 0-2. Queens 2-2 coming into this one. Nick Kloss alongside Emma Claire Cantrell. Charlotte product, went to the UK to play collegiately and now back in the States. EC, great to have you with us and a fun match ahead.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I played with a lot of the girls in the U23 regional tournament this past summer for Queens, and it should be a really great matchup. Both of these teams are pretty competitive and are, it should be a really good game.
Both have played top talent. The Royals going against Dartmouth so far in their schedule. Mount St. Mary's took on Harvard. Lost 106-0 in that one, and we are underway. Apologize if there's any mix-up with the names and everything. Some jersey changing amongst the Royals for this week's contest. It's Mount St. Mary's with the ball here early, starting on their half of the field. And ECU talked a lot about a few different players on this Royals roster. You said you're very familiar with them. Who stands out for Queens?
Yeah, there's a lot of good players on this team. First thing that comes to mind is number 3, Michaela Hall. She is a fantastic player. She stands out on every team that she plays on. And she's in the USA player pool. She, like I said before, was on the U23 regional roster, and you just really want her on the team. She's dominant, powerful, and a great player. Along with Maddie Hughes and Leah Pruce, I think they're both two very dominant players as well.
Far sideline, Royals grab it, but a quick whistle. Official talking to Tori Holmes. And they'll get reset. Try it one more time. Taken back by Mount St. Mary's. Queens with it, falling onto it. Royals trying to pick up win number 3 on the year, get above 500. Both the men's and women's programs very highly touted. Men's team number 1 and number 2 in 2 separate polls so far in the season. Women's have not cracked the top 25 yet. There's some movement here from the Royals. Working their way up, pulled down finally just outside the yellow. We're playing the white lines just for context for the viewer. White lines will be out of play as Jada Madeline carries the pile. Going quick, Royals, huge stiff arm, and there's the try.
She's, like I said, she's a dominant player. If you saw at the start of the game, she hit those first 2 rucks with great power. She doesn't give up. Off that line out, she wanted the ball. She and her teammates worked to get the ball out, and I think that was really great connection right there. Her, Maddie, and Jay, and then took the quick tap and got the score.
So the Royals get things started fairly quickly. They're coming off a win against Warren Wilson where they handled their business, waiting for that 2-point conversion attempt. But already, and it looked like the Royals were able to push pretty easy and get where they wanted.
Yeah, I know it's early to say, but you know, Queens looked pretty dominant. I think Mount St. Mary did a good job of off that first kickoff to get that ball back, but I think they got to put a little bit more power and dominance in if they want to get this ball and get down in their try zone.
So here's the conversion attempt. You kick from the line you scored at.
It's Maddie Hughes.
Hughes taking her time. Over 3.5 minutes in, sends it up and gets it through. A nice conversion for 2 points. We're up to 7 now for Queens.
You know, she's a really versatile player, Maddie. She can kick, drop kick off the tee, and you know, in that U23's regional tournament, she scored our 2 tries, took all the conversions, all the penalty kicks, and she likes to put points on the board for sure.
Already doing it here today, and there was a coaching change in the offseason for this Royals team. Danny Harlow coming in, being named the coach for the 24-25 season, the 3rd coach in program history, coming from Charlotte Catholic. And you had some familiarity with Danny as well.
Yeah, you know, my freshman year of high school, I transferred over from soccer to rugby, and Danny Harlow was my very first coach and taught me how to tackle. So he's a great guy, great coach. Fantastic personality for a rugby leader, very charismatic, and definitely knows the game very well.
Fun full circle moment.
Yeah.
Coming back here and now calling the game.
Yes, yes.
And talk about the community in rugby, as you are from the Charlotte area. Like you said, you know a lot of these girls.
Oh.
As a break here from Hughes. Stiff arm and Royals now working into positive territory, trying to get back in the try zone once again, up 7-0. 5 minutes in, the Royals have controlled the pace.
Jada Mendelin has had great 3 carries so far. She's really setting it up for her back line.
Here's a nice move, breaks it open. Jay Stone on a run, will be free. Just has to tap it down for the try. She does. There's 5 points.
Yeah, I think the backs will owe a lot to Jada Mendelin there. That was her 3rd or 4th carry, 5 or 6 yards, and then they got it out to the backs and just basically ran around Mount St. Mary.
So we'll get another conversion. Hughes will be on it. And you saw, was the reason Stone turned left immediately and didn't tap until right there, was that for a better angle for the conversion?
Yeah,
or what
for
goes
sure.
into
You
that?
know, in a rugby game, it can be a really close game, so you need every point. Every point matters. So if you can get to that center post and make it a little bit easier on the kicker, it means a lot. You know, Maddie's a great kicker, but just making it as easy as possible for her is a smart thing to do as a teammate.
Does it right there to give Hughes point blank angle. She already hit the last conversion, which was way towards the near side, more near that ASUN logo you're seeing on the bottom of your screen.
Sometimes it's honestly, for me, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but you tend to practice the harder kicks a little bit more. I like taking them from the edge. And I think Maddie's the same way.
Other conversion by Maddie.
This time she goes right down the middle, and she may practice the other ones more, but pretty automatic from point blank, as now 14-0 lead for Queens early on Mount St. Mary's.
But as you were saying earlier, this Charlotte community, you got Queens Rugby, and when I was here, you had the Tigers Rugby Club that was first in the nation for women, second in the nation for men's, and now you have the Cardinals additionally. So youth rugby, high school rugby, collegiate rugby, it's all around the Charlotte community. So you can get involved pretty much anywhere you go.
And it seems like, even though you weren't a Royal yourself, but a little bit of everyone knows everyone in a very tight-knit community.
Yeah, I think it's all about the culture environment for rugby, and the better culture you have, the better your team is going to be. I think it's very, it's sometimes forgotten, the team chemistry that you need to play rugby. You can practice your skills individually, you can work out in the gym, but if your team gels the way they should, then you're going to beat out the other team.
Going to restart here. Getting in the scrum now. Kicking it back, Mount St. Mary's trying to get through. I believe that's Bella Canby running down the middle.
It's nice to see Mount St. Mary get a little bit of ground made. That was a great carry from her.
So now, here's the kick. Gain some space on the Royals, as now the deepest Mount St. Mary's has been in offensive territory, kind of getting to that final third.
Yeah, I'm curious here to see if Mount St. Mary will maul, because they may be in the 22 or pretty close to it.
Popped up, Caroline Bauer grabbed it. The one hoisted into the air. It's now good movement towards the outside, trying to get to those backs. Brought down, the whistle sends the Royals back once again.
Looks like that was a high tackle. It was good pressure from Queens, but definitely have to keep the tackles low so they don't get penalized.
So now Mount St. Mary's will do it again on the other side. Pretty much in the same spot, parallel. As we approach now 10 minutes in, it's 2 40-minute halves in rugby. Clock will only stop for an injury just a little too high on the throw. It's now working through the middle. Tori Holmes gets brought down.
Another penalty from Queens. Yeah, he's going to talk to the captain. I think that was 3 in a row since they got in their own half.
The Royals have really been stuck in this one spot. They had a first penalty a little bit ago around that blue line, if you can see it on your screen. And then since then, they've been able to move about 10 yards up because of 2 more penalties.
Every penalty Mount St. Mary's has gotten, they've decided to kick to touch. I'm curious if the captain or someone's going to step in and say, hey, look, we need to go for points here, get some 3 points on the board, or maybe take a quick tap, just switch it up. And like I mentioned before, they may maul here as they inch closer to their try line and try and keep that ball in possession, since the lineouts have been a little bit wobbly.
Another line out. Be the 4th in the last minute for Mount St. Mary's. This time it connects. Pushed back as the Mount St. Mary's pile begins to move. Caroline Bauer was in the middle. Is now sent outside, trying to switch it. Maddie Hughes gets the tackle. continued movement, and there's another penalty going against the Royals. And I think it's that Holmes in the pink cleats. And it is.
You know, it was a good maul attempt from Mount St. Mary, but if they just kept that ball in the maul a little bit longer, I think they could have inched their way in and then passed the ball out. But Queens' pressure is great. They just got to stop getting penalized.
Callie Dietz upfield, getting near the try line. Mount St. Mary's trying to answer 14 consecutive points from Queens. Now Queens pushing back after 4 penalties, and they finally get the ball back, can start moving, lower the shoulder and run through. Such a physical game, obviously, in rugby.
Great offload.
And now a kick to touch for the Royals.
That was a fantastic kick. So the rule is if you're in your own 22 and you kick it, it bounces out. It's going to be Queens' ball wherever the ball went out of bounds.
Amazing kick for a line out to Queens.
The line out for Queens, as EC just said.
Yeah, so Jay Stone, she turned it over, and you know, Queens got it out to their kicker, got it out, and now they get the ball where they want to be.
So if that would have been beyond the 22, would that have just been a Mount St. Mary's line out?
If it went straight out beyond the 22, it would have
And a break here for Mount St. Mary's. Jay Stone
Great
alone one-on-one takes her down. Momentum still with Mount St. Mary's. Michelle Johnston gets brought down. Queens takes it back. Maddie Hughes is still on the sideline, but the Royals trying to roll and get it through the middle.
She's gone.
Michaela Hall has a step. The player you said to watch getting dragged down, but beautiful field position now for the Royals.
Yeah.
And there's a penalty going, I believe, against Mount St. Mary's.
I believe that's against Queens. You know, it was a great run from Michaela and a great turnover from Jay. She made that tackle all by herself, got the turnover, and then the Queens players got the ball out. Michaela had the breakaway, but unfortunately there just wasn't a ton of support with Michaela, so she got a penalty for holding on to the ball. Mount St. Mary's had a great poach, and they get the ball back and choose to kick to touch again for another line out.
Line out on the far side. Another penalty for the Royals. In terms of penalties for each team, Queens handily winning that competition right now. Not one you exactly want to be on top.
They may be winning the game, but they're definitely winning that aspect too.
Mount St. Mary's now, with the field totally flipped the other direction, have to work their way back down. There's another kick to touch. This one bounces before going out.
That's another good kick, but this time on Mount St. Mary's. You know, she was in the 22 once again. Kicked it out, bounced out. It's going to be their ball.
They get the line out.
You know, that was great hustle defense from Queens a couple minutes ago. You know, Mount St. Mary's, they finally got momentum, played really well, got a breakthrough, and their team just worked really hard to get that ball back. So I think that was really good defense.
15 minutes gone, Royals leading 14-0. This is game 1 of a double header. Actually, it's 3 games, but the B team for the Royals men's team plays at 4, and then the men's A team will be at 6 p.m. as here's Stone brought down in the middle of the field. Staying with the Royals on the maul. And the men's team will take on Belmont Abbey, ranked 14th and 10th in the 2 polls, so either way a top 15 matchup. Now splitting through. Leah Prius. Here's a break through the middle.
Great feed.
Cuts once, almost had the open, tries to pitch. It doesn't connect, but the Royals flip the field again and put Mount St. Mary's on their heels. They take it right back. Here's some open space for the backs on the left side. Getting pulled down, Amber Todd. And finally sent out a line out.
You know, I think both teams can work on their depth a little bit on attack. Both are set up kind of flat, making it difficult for the ball. You know, the pressure is going to be really hard for the attack when the defense can fly up like that if you aren't giving each other enough space to let the ball kind of do the work. As you saw, Queens got kind of a lot of pressure put on them and had a few drop balls. They went backwards, so it wasn't a knock-on, but I think if they got some more depth, it would help.
Medellin on the line out there. Queens gets it effectively. Pressing upfield, trying to make this a 3-score game. Here's Michaela Hall, had a great run just a couple minutes ago. There's some more open space. Cutting inside and a lost pitch. Gives it right back to Mount St. Mary's, the exact same spot as a couple moments ago.
I think at the start of the game, Queens had some really good offloads, but these past 2 offloads, they haven't been the best option, I think, for the team to make. Maybe the girls are getting a little bit too eager. They want to get, you know, in that try zone, so instead of taking it to ground and setting up something for the next phase, they just want to get it off.
Gonna have a scrum in the middle of the field, and looks like a water break as there appears it might be a Mount St. Mary's player down. And there is getting checked by the trainer, so hoping she's okay, but toughness a part of the sport in rugby. And now that we're getting towards halfway in this first half, 18 minutes gone, what have you seen so far? You've seen some good from the rugby, from the Royals you just mentioned, but Mount St. Mary's on your heels in the first half. What are you looking to do?
Yeah, you know, they've had moments of really good play, but I think they're more individual. Like I was saying before, you need that team connection. They aren't too connected in defense, which is why I think Queens is finding those open spaces, and they're really capitalizing on that. So if they just tighten up their defensive line and communicate a little bit better, I think that would really help them get a set defensive line and just close off the Queens players. But those breakaways were fantastic from Mount St. Mary's. But yeah, they just need some more support on those plays so they can set up some more structured outcomes.
Mount St. Mary's getting possession of the ball a few times off of penalties on the Royals. They have quite a few more. Don't know if we've actually seen Mount St. Mary's with a penalty just yet.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's all been Queens, and you know, you can't risk too many penalties because then you're going to get a yellow card. You're going to be down a player for, I think, 14 minutes or so, which can completely change a game. It just opens up a lot of space for Mount St. Mary's, so Queens definitely needs to keep an eye on their penalties.
It's a great balance. You want to be aggressive, you want to play hard, but also there's discipline that comes into it.
Yeah, and I think Queens is very aggressive, which is a great character trait in a team. It's a great line.
Mount St. Mary's still with it, have yet to find the try zone. Here for a beautiful midday game of rugby.
You can hear the crowd of the Queens players screaming to fold right. It's a 3 on about 6 right now. If Mount St. Mary's just pass it out, they could actually get around the last defender.
fighting for it.
There's that dominance you were talking.
The physicality from the Royals just does seem like another level at the moment.
You know, that's Leah Proofs every time. That's her third ruck that she's blown up. But her teammates, you know, I think after she does that, they need to get on that ball so they can get the ball back. She's putting in all that work. As soon as they get that ball, they could catch Mount St. Mary's on the back foot and get in the try zone.
Shania Mayers over the midfield line now is Mount St. Mary's.
They lost that ball.
Blown up again by the Royals, and now Queens trying to get it outside to the backs. Through the middle, Jada Medellin. Right in there to keep it going for Queens, and just there it is again, lowering the shoulder.
I wonder if you can hear that on the live stream.
And then just churning the legs.
Yeah.
Bobbled. It's a penalty behind the ball. Will bring it back to the spot. And it looks like the official's gonna put it between the two. Let them go at it. You see Michaela Hall there.
I think they have an injury.
Number 3 in white, and there is in the middle of the field. Tori Holmes down for Mount St. Mary's. Appears to be okay and stays in. Not much of a bench for Mount St. Mary's, just 2 players over there, 2 or 3 as reserves.
Yeah, usually when that happens, you know, you got to really think to yourself, you know, is this an injury or is this just pain? And unfortunately, if it's just pain, you got to stay in for your teammates and your team and try to get that win.
And Holmes does seem to be a little bit shaken up, but staying in and moving well on the right leg. That was getting checked out. Placed in the middle by the Royals. Having to get it to pop out. Finally do, you have to move the pile to grab it.
Great offload.
As there it gets tossed off, and the Royals should have another try, and they do.
That was a great play by Queens, a classic scrum play where, you know, the 8 picks takes it blind. They draw on the defender. As soon as Leah drew in that defender, she got the offload. It was a 2 on nobody. You know, usually it's at least a 2-on-1, but, you know, it was open field for that try.
That was Maggie Deneen on the try to make it 19-0. Now we'll see the conversion attempt once again, this time not Maddie Hughes. Getting later in this game, you see Mount St. Mary's getting water, the Royals getting water as well while they can. How much from your, obviously, vast experience in the sport, a hot day like this, stamina comes into play a lot?
Yeah. You know, it's kind of like a test. You know, if you study the night before or the day of, you're probably not going to pass. But it's all about the days and weeks leading up to it, you know, training, getting your fitness up, and then that last week just doing all the right things, hydrating, eating right.
Version made by Cece.
And sometimes in games like this where it's this hot, you know, it can come down to who's the fittest team and who wants it in the very end.
CC Calhoun gets the conversion for 2 points, 21-0 now. The Royals having this one in hand over Mount St. Mary's. Over halfway through that first half now. It's 2 40-minute running halves. Nick Kloss, Emma Claire Cantrell here with you. And EC, I just mentioned the heat. You played in the UK.
Yeah.
So this is probably not something you had to deal with very
Oh,
often.
no.
Or ever.
No. So the school I went to, Cardiff Met, it was actually in the rainiest city in the UK. That's a great kick.
See if it goes out. It does.
But yeah, pretty much every game I was playing, it was either raining, sometimes hailing, and it was freezing. So it's you have to take a different look at the game when that's the situation. You know, a lot more pick and goes, a lot more forwards play. Here, Queens and Mount St. Mary's, you know, they can utilize their backs and use that space because it's a lot easier to handle the ball. So you can adjust your strategy based on the weather for sure.
So I'm imagining your games or matches where the classic mud
Oh yeah.
rugby,
Yes.
not leaving that without a very extensive long shower.
Oh yeah. You know, you couldn't go sit in your car head to toe covered in mud. It was definitely a different type of rugby. Let's just say I really wouldn't want to be a winger over at that school because it's hard to get that ball out when it's that wet.
Mount St. Mary's, Amber Todd with the ball to set up for the scrum. Has to have it pop out through the feet, finally does. Quickly brought down by Maggie Deneen. But now some open space for Mount St. Mary's. CC Calhoun wraps her up to slow things down. Mount St. Mary's getting over the halfway point once again, have not been able to get past that final third. They've gotten inside the 22, but that was once very briefly, and it was due a lot to penalties from the Royals, which they have cleaned up in the past.
Yep. Right
5 to
after
10
they
minutes.
they get this penalty right here. Spoke
Right
a
as
little
I
bit.
say it.
Yeah. So that was for not holding up your body weight. She went for a poach and she put her hand straight on the floor. It was a good attempt, but the execution just wasn't quite right. And, you know, I loved Mount St. Mary's depth on that scrum play. That's what I was talking about earlier in the game, and, you know, they gained a lot of meters from that depth and finding the space in the defensive line. Looks like Maddie's back in. That was a great hit.
Maddie Hughes. You can tell her by the pink cleats she's got on. 15 in white. And it appears a big difference between Mount St. Mary's is just the eye test of Queens has the size advantage. Seems to have a strength advantage in the front.
Yeah, like I said from the very start, they got a lot of powerful players. But I think, you know, you can use strategy to kind of attack that in a way, in a different way by having a tight defensive line. You know, connecting your players, coming up together and closing them off, making chop tackles. You know, hitting them at their feet. You know, you don't have to make the huge dominant dump tackles, especially on those stronger girls. You got to kind of take it in a strategic way.
Line out on the far side. Mount St. Mary's coming into striking distance, taken away by the Royals. Ooh, is trying to switch side, tackled in the try zone.
That was great pressure by Mount St. Mary's. You know, I think that was what they needed to get a little bit momentum. Like I was saying, she applied pressure, got that player, and now it's going to be Mount St. Mary's ball on the 5-meter.
Setting up for the scrum. Right outside. Closing in on 28 minutes. Official blows the whistle. They're going to reset. Royals sitting at 2-2 so far on the 24-25 season. Mount St. Mary's looking for their first win of the year. Getting going. Round the far side. Seems like Queens takes it back. They're pushing Mount St. Mary's on their heels. So now the Royals try to gain some space away from the try line, and there they do, breaking away a little bit. Jada Medellin. And Mount St. Mary's is also looking for their first try of 2024. They lost 106-0 against Harvard and then 78-0 against West Point. Staying on the road, their 2 home matches against Navy and Sacred Heart were canceled.
Oh.
So now playing for the first time since September 8th, so a full month
Wow.
between games here for Mount St. Mary's.
Yeah, that's gotta definitely. They gotta take some time to adjust to that. I'm sure some of them are feeling a little rusty, so hopefully they're feeling good for this game now that it's 30 minutes in.
Hall.
See, look at the space in their back line right now. See what Queens can do.
Calhoun brought down. The ruck there for Mount St. Mary's with a whistle that's gonna bring it back.
Looks like that was a knock-on from Queens. But I think Mount St. Mary's got a little bit lucky there. Their defensive line seemed a little bit disconnected. I don't know if some of the players are a little bit tired, but they just need to work around that corner to just shut Queens down.
Water break here for both sides as a player is down for Mount St. Mary's again. Like I said, they have a very short bench, so Mount St. Mary's is most likely gonna see them take a few more breaks, as they already have had 2, now 3 players go down separate times. Royals have yet to a much deeper roster, but also one of the more established college rugby programs in the country.
Yeah.
A lot of Charlotte players
Yep.
stay home to play for the Royals.
Yeah, I think they do a really good job of recruiting players from around the area. And I think that leads to a lot of the girls having a great bond and connection. You know, they know how each other play. They know the skills, the talents, and when you know a little bit more about your teammates and how they play, it makes the game a lot easier.
Mountaineers right now down by 21 to the Royals, who picked up wins in their first 2 matches of the year, 40-7 over Navy and then 66-0 over Warren Wilson. After that, it was a very close loss to Brown, 24-21, and then losing to Dartmouth 36-0. That was in Annapolis.
You know, Brown is a really tough school to play, so having such a close margin game is very impressive. And you know, same with Dartmouth. Even I talked to a few of the girls. Even though the score may have said 36-0, they felt that they put in a lot of work and put in, you know, the best that they could, and they felt that it was a pretty good game. You know, you learn a lot playing high-level schools like that.
And Dartmouth 4-0 on the season. We were talking about, they're not in the top 25. Seem like a top 25 caliber team.
Might need to be updated.
Might need to get that looked at on the National Collegiate Rugby rankings.
For sure.
Last updated on October 2nd, Michigan in that top spot, followed by Wheeling in Northern Iowa in the top 3. Line out on the far side with under 9 minutes to play on the clock. That clock does not line up perfectly with what the official has on the field, so that halftime whistle could come.
You know, I
at a
wonder
different time.
if Mount St. Mary's is going to continue to kick those penalties to touch and take the line out, because
Is now here's an opening. Medellin only had one more to get through. Tosses it for Leah Prius. Goes down for the ruck, and there's the whistle. Royals throw it outside. Maddie Hughes fakes to CC Calhoun, goes through 2. Now Calhoun gets it. Goes around, and she'll get her second try, another 5 points. 26-0 for the Royals.
See, that's what I was saying. Maybe Mount St. Mary's should think about doing is Queens took that quick tap, they got the ball out, drew in the defenders, and then it was a 4-on-1. There's not much that defender can do there. Maybe instead of playing such structured, styled rugby, they should think about switching up their game plan a little bit.
Mount St. Mary's on their heels, trying to find their first try of 2024 and build this program up throughout this year, going against a very good Queens team. Back on the conversion is Maddie Hughes once again. It's perfect 2 for 2 on conversions so far. Calhoun took one of them as well. Right now, Calhoun, Stone, as well as Prius, all with tries. Calhoun's got 2.
Maddie Hughes.
Maddie Hughes gets the conversion, makes it 28-0, and
I think Mount St. Mary has a lot of potential here. They just need to really capitalize on the moments that they spend in their 22. You know, when they get into inside their 22, they need to come together as a team and say, hey, how do we get into this try zone? What are we going to do to cross that white line?
they've been able to push the Royals back there 2 different times now, and even got that big tackle in the try zone.
Yeah.
Put Queens very much on their heels, but I mean, credit to the Royals. They have not broken once, up 28-0. Most points they've scored this season was 66 against Warren Wilson. They also put up 40 against Navy, on pace to possibly meet the 66. Is here Stone. Nice stiff arm,
Great run.
plenty of room on the near side. Queens using the backs to perfection and touches it down. Back-to-back tries within the last 60 seconds.
Another try scored for Queens.
You know, that's a great effort from Queens. And I was talking about it before, that disconnect in Mount St. Mary's defense. You know, they just found that hole, put the gas on.
That's the second try now for Jay Stone. Brings so much speed from the back. If she gets an opening, she had to beat one. Put on a nice stiff arm and used the long legs too. She's pretty tall and had the step, as now Hughes will take another conversion. And this is a similar spot to her first. Not as point blank, but as you said, sometimes you like those a little bit better.
I do. I think they're fun. You know, there's not as much pressure. Sometimes I struggle when it's right in the middle. You know, everyone thinks you have to make it. But right now, you know, there's no pressure on Hughes to make this kick. Everyone knows how difficult it is. But then, you know, when she drills it in, it feels even better.
See if she can do that right here. 36 minutes on the clock here at Dixon Field. A beautiful day for some rugby. Queens women's starting it as Hughes with another
That was a fantastic
very
kick.
nice kick.
See, and, you know, everyone's impressed. Everyone's clapping. It's such a great feeling. And that was a fantastic kick from Hughes.
Hughes has to be feeling pretty good. She's been involved in multiple different ways so far in this game. Also, a few contributors. It's not just one player that's pulling away for the Royal Stone. I mentioned Calhoun. Talked a lot about Maddie Hughes, and then Michaela Hall, one of the best players on the field. This whole Queens roster just, like you said, very close, tight-knit, very familiar with each other.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's all about your team chemistry and how you can grow together You know, it's not an individual sport, and it never will be. You can't win a game, you know, if you're all playing individually.
Takes the whole team working together, as I believe it's going to be a scrum in dead center of the field.
Yeah, so that ball didn't go 10. So Queens has the option to take a scrum midfield or have another restart.
So going for the scrum at midfield, up 35-0. On pace now to break their highest scoring match against Warren Wilson. They did that in Asheville, North Carolina. And obviously, thoughts and prayers with that whole area.
Yes.
And everyone at Warren Wilson after Hurricane Helene. It's the Royals now moving the other way. Deneen finds her way into the try zone, and she gets her second.
That was great support from Maggie Deneen. You know, that's the same scrum play they had on the 50-yard line, a little bit right of the field. And, you know, it worked, so why not do it again? This time they had an extra supporter on the outside as well, so it was a 3-on-2, and I think they executed that perfectly.
So 2 tries now for Jay Stone, Cece Calhoun, and Maggie Deneen. Deneen's also played very physical. We've already seen 2 different hits, one of which we heard from here.
Yeah. You know, I think scrum half is a very underrated position on defense. People don't always expect the scrum half to be the hard hitter, but, you know, they are definitely some tough players, and they can take people down just as well as the forwards can.
Hughes ready for yet another conversion, made all but one, and it's not because she missed, it's because Cece Calhoun took it. Hughes perfect on conversions, makes it 42-0 in a commanding first half for the Royals. Dominating right now against Mount St. Mary's. For the Royals, trying to go up to 3-2 and get over 500 before they have to take on Army on the road, and then Harvard, Warren Wilson again, and Princeton to finish out their schedule. All NIRA opponents except for Warren Wilson. Could be another thing.
Great kickoff.
As the kickoff snagged down, Olivia Woodward was there to grab it. Time winding down. The clock will hit 40, but we'll keep going until the official calls for halftime. Right now he's calling a penalty on Queens.
Looks like that was for not rolling away or not releasing. I think they're deciding what to do here.
Waiting for the decision. Monet Hubbard and Shania Mayers have been 2 instrumental players here as Mount St. Mary's trying to get a try before this first half ends. With time winding down, there was injury time from, I believe, 3 separate occasions where a Mount St. Mary's player went down. There's the big hit. Monet Hubbard, 12 in blue, lowered her shoulder. Queens nearly getting it back. It was pushed back by Hall before Mount St. Mary's gathered it up.
Queens is definitely making it difficult for the Mount in the breakdown with those hard hitters. You know, as soon as they get on that floor, Queens is at the ruck, and now they have a turnover.
Queens with it. Here's Michaela Hall with a nice pitch. Goes outside. Prius with some room to run. Brought down around midfield. And a whistle gives the ball to Queens.
Looks like it was a high tackle. You know, the Mount started off really strong on that play action. You know, they had the kickoff and then a fantastic catch from the Mount player at the 10-yard line. That's a really difficult skill to do. So I think they had great connection going into their 22, but, you know, they got so close once again, and Queens' breakdown defense just seems to be really impressive today.
Queens with the line out. Play it perfectly. Cycling it to the other side, Stone. Pitching in, dropped. It's taken to the middle, and I believe that's the call for the first half, and it was a big one for the Royals. EC 42-0. Queens taking the lead into the half. What are your takeaways here?
I think Queens has great breakdown defense. I think they're really capitalizing on the Mount's mistakes, and they are, you know, getting across their white line. And I think if the Mount at halftime just reconnects a little bit, like they did in that last phase, they could cross the white line as well. Just getting a little bit more connection, and yeah.
A good first half, 42-0. Queens up on Mount St. Mary's. We're going to step aside, be back in 9.5 minutes.
Queens.
dragging 2 defenders along with her.
Look
As
how
now
much space there
Queens
is.
going up, and I think that might have been Prius.
There it is again, you know, Mount gets their momentum. You saw the great fend off and the great carry. And then Hughes just had a fantastic breakdown. You know, I think it's just the mentality of they want the ball back, and that's what they've been coached. So they're going to do anything they can, and they have the bench to, you know, provide if they get tired. And they got that ball over, even though they did get a penalty in the end.
Very deep roster for the Royals.
So I think from a coaching perspective, when you have a roster like that where your bench can really be impact players, you know, they tell the players, like, give it everything you got, you know, go out there and play 100%. If that's, you know, 40 minutes, if that's 50 minutes, whatever it is, we can sub you off as soon as you're finished, giving your best effort.
Clock stopped at 11:05 as Medellin was down, stretching, popped back up. So the trainer's playing a little bit of,
Yeah, I was going to say.
should I, shouldn't I? She'll go out the near side.
She's getting her fitness in for sure.
As here's the line out, picked up by Mount St. Mary's, thrown back by Holmes. Monet Hubbard in the middle with Shania Mayers. As there's Mathis again. Another ruck there from Mount St. Mary's, getting some open space on the far side. Good movement, bobbled and goes down. Sends out in a, I believe, a line out coming.
I think the Mount is doing a better job at their breakdown, securing it a little bit more. You saw Hughes tested it, and it was secure, so they were able to, you know, pass the ball out quickly, and they almost had a breakaway there.
So it'll be a scrum on the far side, not a line out. Royals with 9 potential reserves as Jay Stone just checked out and take a seat on the bench compared to just 2 for Mount St. Mary's. Waiting the scrum with the 2 9s, Tori Holmes and Maggie Deneen. Deneen with 2 tries on the afternoon. Perfect sunny day for some rugby in Charlotte. And how does Charlotte as a rugby city compare to other cities around the U.S.? Is it one that's growing, that's bigger overall? How does it compare?
I think it's a secret hidden gem, actually. You know, if you talk to people who don't play rugby, they might not know about it, but if you're in the rugby community in Charlotte, you know everybody and you know how great and how big it is. But compared to other states, you know, some people down south don't even have rugby teams at their high school. They don't have an environment to go to. But, you know, out on the West Coast, I think it's a little bit more prominent and a little bit more well-known, kind of similar to the Charlotte community.
And it seems at the college level, there's a lot of like northeastern, little Pennsylvania schools, as well as the Ivies that have had rugby for a much longer time.
Yeah, you know, the Ivy Leagues, they just have
and
great
the military
programs.
academies as well.
Yeah, all those schools, they've been around a little bit longer, and you can't really compete with that. You can try, and I think schools are doing a great job of almost playing catch up. For example, Queens has grown a ton, and now they are in the same league. A couple years back they weren't, so I think it is really impressive for these lesser known schools to compete with them.
And it shows that for schools that want to climb like the Royals have, it seems like investing in the sport brings the success. And they have decided, Queens, even though they're both club teams, Queens as a school supports the men's and women's rugby teams.
Yeah.
Not to the same extent of a Division I sport,
Yeah.
just due to rules, but as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, it's really great to see that, you know, every time you talk about rugby with people who don't maybe know so much about it, they ask like, oh, is the women's game the same? Because is it lacrosse that the women can't really check, or they don't have that same aggressive rules? So it's nice to see that there's a sport where the men and women play exactly the same at such an aggressive level. It's really cool.
Surprisingly, especially with contact sports, that is not something that's very common.
Right.
The only sports really are rugby, oddly enough, box lacrosse, and women's hockey are the three sports really where the men's and women's game are the same.
Yeah.
Women's hockey still hasn't fully gotten there. They do not check, which the women do not like, and hope that will come into the game.
You know, you have it in the UFC too. I think it's really cool how they have women's cards now, and you know the MMA is at the same level, similar to the rugby game. So it's nice to have environments like that for female athletes.
So we have another injury timeout, but seems like some quick concussion protocol testing.
That's one thing that has been huge in women's rugby recently. I was talking with the BBC actually about women's concussions, and all the research that they have done previously has been only on men. And you know, they're just now in the past 2 years starting to study what it's like for women's rugby and concussions and how they get them. And you know, it's different. They get them in different ways, and you know, but in previous years they were treating it exactly the same, which is just incorrect.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
To say the least. That just in the past 3 years, concussions were getting researched for women's sports.
Yeah.
Something that definitely needs to change, and luckily has changed and is going in the right direction, as we're seeing a lot with a boom of women's sports in the past, I'd say 2 to 3 years, really, with women's basketball and professional women's sports. The NWSL in soccer has gained so much momentum. You mentioned a new professional women's league for rugby. It seems like a lot of it is trending in the right direction as Mount St. Mary's looking for their first try.
Penalty or
and
try?
We'll see what is the call. They're right there. They're still outside the line, and I think it's going to be Mount St. Mary's ball. It might be the try, and it's going to be a try for Mount St. Mary's. That is their first of the 2024 season. They break the shutout and make it 56-5.
It's actually, I think it's going to be to 7 since it was a penalty try. You don't even have to kick the conversion.
So straight up 7 points?
Yeah. I think it was a high tackle over there. You know, like we said before, Queens has had a lot of penalties, so I think they're going to be a little bit frustrated with themselves there, but I bet Mount St. Mary's is certainly happy with that, even though they probably wanted to get it themselves and not end it in that way, but a try is a try, and that was a great effort from them.
Now there's 5 points on the scoreboard right now, but no one is setting up for the conversion.
Yeah.
So we're going to trust EC, our expert on this one, that it is 56-7.
Oh, there they go.
And there it is. Now they follow suit. They heard you. So a 56-7 lead now for the Royals, and got to feel good right now for Mount St. Mary's to break through that threshold. And like you said, they've been so close.
Yeah.
You said that at half too. They have been really close, and it's good to see them finally break through, as even though this match, the Royals right now have it in hand, it would be very difficult to make a comeback happen here. Not impossible, but they have a lot more games on the schedule. So there's a lot more to go. You don't, obviously, after a hard loss, give up and keep. Right now, this is a learning opportunity, a chance to get better, and then they have more games to play.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, if you get so far behind in games like Mount St. Mary has done, you kind of have to look at it in a different perspective, and instead of maybe trying to win, you know, well, you always want to try to win, but maybe focus on certain aspects of the game, you know, come together as a team. Maybe the captain says, hey, we're struggling here, let's make a goal to work on this. And by doing that, maybe that's how they got the try, or maybe that's how they'll get more tries.
line out for the Royals. They grab it, now pushing the pile and moving up. I believe that's Prius. Goes down inside the 22. Royals looking to break the 60 threshold. Calhoun, 3 tries on the day. To the left side, gets it to the backs. Have to touch it down, and she does. It should be a Royal 5. They added on the scoreboard, 61-7. Queens answers right back.
I think that was a great decision to maul on that line out. Over on the 10-meter on the right side, you know, they kept it in for a good amount of time, and then Leah Pruce, she came out with it, and they got the ball wide for the score.
Maddie Hughes will be on the conversion. And EC, while we wait for that, just for anyone, a lot of the people listening to this I know are rugby people, Queens fans and Mount St. Mary's fans alike, but you mentioned the maul to push up. There's also the scrum. What's the difference there between those two things?
So,
similar words can be confusing.
Similar concept for the scrum. You know, that happens in gameplay when there's a penalty other than a quick tap. But the scrum, you know, is a structured push between two teams. And the maul is more of a quick decision by one team that you have to react by the other team. So the player catching the ball in the air gets turned towards their other player, presents the ball, and in the same scrum formation, they push against the other team. And as long as they stay in that formation, they can keep pushing and pushing. But as soon as they get stopped, that's one stop. And if they get stopped again, then the ref will communicate to them that they need to get that ball out. But as you saw, Queens, you know, they weren't stopping. And as soon as Leah popped out, then you can tackle her, but you can't collapse them all or, you know, just bring it down abruptly. That may be a penalty.
So similar in ways, but scrum the more set up one. Queens using the maul to get the try there with 22 minutes on the clock. Our scoreboard says 62-7. But the conversion was missed. I feel like it should be 61-7. So we'll keep an eye on that. But either way, over 60 points. And there it is, 61-7. We are on top of the scoreboard right now.
They got to put us in charge next time.
We can multitask.
Oh, yeah.
He's now through the middle. Calhoun right on the Queens logo.
She does a great job reading space on the rugby field.
She's gotten open on long runs 3 different times for the tries. And it seems like anytime she touches the ball, when they get it to that right side and she has some room to run, just like right here with Prius, who's going through player after player, and a great handoff. Queens could see another try, brought down, the ball's free. Landing on it is Deneen. As the Royals in position to add on another 5 points. Has turned once again, barreling down, they're over the line.
Held up.
And they're held up.
That's a great effort by Mount St. Mary's. You know, they knew that they were having negative tackles that entire time, so they took the strategy to pull the player on top of them, and now they get a goal line dropout.
So the goal line dropout with 23 and a half on the clock. 61-7 lead for the Royals. Multiple different players contributing. Maggie Deneen has a couple. Leah Prius started us out. Jay Stone, who's now on the bench, had 2. Cece Calhoun with 3. As well as Michaela Hall has had some great runs. And Maddie Hughes has had all the conversions except for one, did miss once. There she is, dishes it off. And the Royals now add another try, make it 66-7, awaiting the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, those goal line dropouts, they can be tricky. You want to try and kick it as far as you can, usually, or try and kick it to where, you know, maybe a player isn't going to catch it because they just get the possession right back, giving them the opportunity to score.
Up to 66 now, as Hughes is going to have the conversion in a similar spot as she did the last one. She hooked it left from the tough angle. She's a righty foot.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard taking it from this edge because, you know, all you're thinking about is how hard you need to kick it, but you're also thinking about, you know, is my tee set up the right way? Is the ball going the right way? So I think on the last one, maybe she just overkicked it a little bit, swung the leg, and that's why it went left.
And that was her first one from this side. I know with the first half we have to flip, but she was kicking with her right foot on the outside for those first two tight angle ones in the first half. That was her first kick she had taken where her foot was on the inside.
Yeah. And, you know, everyone has a better side, so could have just been a mistake or, you know, this side may not be her favorite.
Hughes awaiting the go-ahead, gets it here. This time she gets it done, gets the conversion, and makes it 68-7.
That was a great kick, you know, straight through the middle. I can imagine she was a little bit upset about missing the last kick, so she probably was real focused on this one.
Maybe a little bit of a perfectionist.
Oh, yeah.
On that. Up 68-7 and frustrated about the 2 points, but that's exactly why competitive athletes are competitive athletes.
Rugby players are pretty critical about every little thing, you know. You can watch a game and see, hey, I scored 3 tries, but I dropped this one ball. You're going to think about that the rest of the day.
So restart on the kickoff from Mount St. Mary's. Talked about them after Queens. They'll have Brown, Princeton, then Westchester over their next 3.
Little chip kick from Maddie.
It's blown up. Maddie Hughes with a big hit. That one on Sydney Sibilia before the whistle comes in from the official.
Crossing. Looks like that's what the penalty's for. So for those of you who don't really know what crossing is, a player can't intentionally block another player. So you had the Mount St. Mary's player kind of standing in the way of Maddie while the other Mount St. Mary's player crossed behind her, basically blocking Hughes from getting through. So that'll be a penalty.
So if you can't block, with a lot of people knowing American football, if you don't have the ball, your first mindset is, all right, eyes upfield, who am I blocking?
Yeah.
When you're off ball in rugby, what are you thinking?
I think you're looking for the next phase, looking to set something up. You know, football, you have structured plays that you set up, you do the play, then you have a little bit more time to reset and do another play. In rugby, the game is going on. So you need to be in the right position. You need to be thinking and communicating with your teammates about what they're going to do next while something's still going on. So it's definitely a lot of multitasking going on.
Good push here from the Royals. Great job moving it outside. There was a collision. They're still playing. The trainer going out to check on the 2 players down. One of those being CC Calhoun, who's been effective. She pops right back up. She's all good to go. As here comes Hughes. Plenty of room. Slides down for another try. 73-7. The Royals extend their lead.
It's looking like Mount St. Mary's is just getting outnumbered on defense. There's always that one defender on the outside against 2 or 3 players, having to make a decision. Do I try and defend this player with the ball, or do I push wide to maybe defend the player that she's going to pass to? I think the team can do a little bit of a better job connecting on defense.
Conversion coming for Hughes, who scored the try. Getting some water before going to take that conversion. A player is still down on the blue line for Mount St. Mary's. Calhoun is also down over halfway. She's getting stretched out by a teammate while getting a drink of water. It seems like cramping for Calhoun. On the other side, it may be checking an ankle. We'll let you know who that is as soon as we're able to get a look. Clock stopped, or still running actually, but we don't know what the official clock is as that one goes outside. Second miss now on conversions for Hughes, has made a majority of them though today, helping to this 73-7 score. Just 2 missed conversions in total of all the tries that Queens has put on the board. The men's team now showing up as the B team plays at 4 and the A team ranked number 1 in the Goff Rugby rankings and number 2 in the National Collegiate Rugby rankings, going up against Belmont Abbey, who's 10th in the NCR rankings. As the injured player was Monet Hubbard down on the other end. She gets to her feet, and applause for her.
Looks like it's her ankle.
As they're hoping she can walk off on her own power, but it does seem like she's gonna need assistance from the officials. They're gonna try and get her off on the nearest sideline. There's Michaela Hall showing great sportsmanship, going over to see if they need help getting her off the field.
Yeah, that's another aspect of Michaela's player characteristics. Is not only is she a fantastic player, but she's a great teammate. She's a great leader. She just leads by example and says the right things, and is a great person to have on your team, really.
Great competitor there. Great person, not just to her teammates, but to others, as that ankle injury does have Hubbard out.
So it looks like they were offsides, maybe.
Does seem like she's still on the field, but she's getting attention away so the play can continue. Under 10 minutes, probably about 10 minutes if we had to guess, with the separation between the clocks, as Royals making their way towards the 22 again. It's on the ruck for Queens. Barreling through, Hughes in the middle, dragging everyone and getting into the try zone for 5.
She's going to be really happy about that one. That was great effort.
There were multiple times we thought she was stopped in her tracks there.
I think that's a great quality this Queens team has, is every player seems to put 100% effort into everything that they're doing, and that's what makes a really powerful team. It's the little things like that.
Hughes will try for the conversion to make it an even 80 on the scoreboard. Trying to get up by 73 on Mount St. Mary's. Already their biggest margin of victory right now if the game ends at 78-7.
Looks like Salome Schmidt just came in at wing. Was wearing number 14. She wasn't on the original roster. She normally plays scrum half or wing and is a great player, so I'm excited to see what she can do here.
Like we said at the beginning, some jersey swapping and number swapping for the Royals, so trying our best to let you know who's on the field. As come back to the middle for the kickoff after the conversion from Hughes. 34 minutes gone, nearly to the end of this first rugby game here at Dixon Field. 2 more to go, 1 more here on Queen Sports Network. That'll be at 6 p.m. We hope you join EC and I once again. We'll be right back here for the evening festivities between Belmont Abbey and the Royals. It's the kickoff snagged by Mount St. Mary's. Olivia Woodward once again was first to get it on a good kickoff. Is now, here's Hubbard working through the middle, got her ankle checked out. She's right back in it. Queens has Brown and Princeton, or excuse me, the Mount has Brown and Princeton up next, and then Westchester.
You know, I do have to applaud the number 10 for Mount St. Mary's. I think she's given a great effort and is a great leader on their team. You know, she has those kickoffs, and the number 13 is always coming in trying to have that receipt so they can get the ball.
That's Shania Mayers, the 10 for Mount St. Mary's, and down again is Monet Hubbard. Needing help with that left leg again, and the official's going to come over after this is her second time being down within the last 5 minutes. Definitely fighting through pain right now.
Yeah, you know, they have that short bench. I'm sure it's difficult to try and stay in the game, especially when you have an injury.
Now, their head coach, Maggie Miles, will come over to check on Hubbard in the number 12 jersey. Miles from Emmitsburg, Maryland, and became the 3rd coach in program history in June for Mount St. Mary's, as she'll help Hubbard off the field along with the trainers, and we'll see if she pops right back in this time or she's done for the day, as she will go fully off the field and take a seat on the bench. Waiting for the line out for Queens, and now they'll get started once again after the injury. Deneen passes it off, speed from the back. As now we're starting to see a lot of different players get in for Queens with this lead.
Definitely a high tackle there. There's Salome Schmidt. She's clearly looking for some action there. You can tell she's eager to get the ball in.
Here's Medellin in the middle. Good movement for the Royals. Dragged back, but still doing a good job to push it outside. That kick upfield. Gave it back in a big hit.
Oh!
And some pushing after
yeah.
that play.
See what?
But no extracurriculars. It seems Sydney Sibilia was on the other side for Mount St. Mary's. She got up and just got back to business. That all started with a big hit.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard not to take those big hits personally, and it just gets to you.
Throughout an 80-minute game, I think that's pretty understandable.
You know, I like the aggressiveness in rugby, and that's one thing I noticed about the UK versus the US is the UK, they don't applaud, you know, fights like that, but they definitely don't regulate it as much as the US refs do. So I think it adds a little bit extra to the game and good entertainment, if you say.
It's definitely an entertaining sport, a growing sport in the Charlotte area and in the United States in general. And it's funny, there are a lot of clips in rugby, people who say that it is somewhat shocking the U.S. isn't more into rugby
Yeah.
with how into physical, big hits,
Yeah.
big plays, that type of game. And rugby fits the bill for a lot of
Yeah.
those criteria that Americans love.
Yeah, I think America is really working towards it, and they're doing a great job. Small changes are coming one day at a time, and each day they're getting closer and closer. And once USA Rugby really gets it down, I think we're really going to be unstoppable.
The caliber of athlete in the United States has never been the problem.
Yeah.
In any sport. It's more been the funding into it, the
Yeah.
coaching, gaining experience,
Yeah.
really, just on countries and nations that have played for so much
Yeah.
longer.
And I think it's great what the USA Sevens team did at the Olympics. You know, by them getting bronze, it wasn't just a medal. You know, they got a $1 million sponsor from people that notice the sport and notice that women's sport is entertaining and people watch it, and that there's so much potential in women's rugby in the U.S.
There is a stop here. The ball in the middle. Looks like two captains being talked to by the official. There is a tie between these two teams. Maggie Miles, the head coach I talked about, she did have a stint at Queens on the staff when the Royals went a perfect 9-0 on the way to their first D2 national championship where they beat Davenport. So she has experience being here in the Queen City, but was originally from Emmitsburg and now home with the Mount. And as a collegiate player, was a two-time All-American for Quinnipiac. Played in 42 matches and won 2 national championships under Becky Carlson.
You know, it's always great to have a coach experience like that. They really understand the game. They can relate to the players, and you just respect them a little bit more. So that's amazing to hear.
The camaraderie of knowing someone that's taken a couple hits
Yeah.
makes you have some more faith, like you said, in their experience level. And obviously, she's someone who's done it at a very high level,
Yeah.
at a high collegiate level. She's coached at a high level, helping Queens to a D2 national championship, now at the D1 level. And for Queens, trying to continue the recent history of excellence
Yeah.
in the sport of rugby. A win here would put them
Might be a card coming.
to above 500, and we'll see if
Yep.
that card happens and players sent off for the Royals.
You know, the lineouts have just been a little bit messy from both sides here, I think. That was Mount St. Mary's lineout, and, you know, you had a player go up early, then they went up again, and then they crossed that line that the ref drew in the middle. But I'd love to see Mount St. Mary's either take a scrum at a penalty or a quick tap, rather than kicking it out every time. Maybe switch it up a little bit and see if something works better.
Nearing the 22 on the other side. Looking for possibly a final try to get on the board a second time. They had the penalty try that resulted in the 7 points they have.
Yeah. See, that lineout was actually performed really well. It was just the pass from the scrum half that was a little far behind, causing a little bit of fumbling, which led to the knock-on.
(79-7) right here. Scrum on the offensive half for Mount St. Mary's. Mount 0-2 will advance to 0-3 after this match. Royals 3-5 and picking up an NIRA win. Did that also against Navy. Will be their second. They're 2-2 in NAIRA.
Great hit.
NIRA,
13.
excuse me. 13, Olivia Woods, and that's the call. 40 minutes on the clock, and Queens gets a big win, 79-7. The Royals now 3-2. Mount St. Mary's 2-0-3. And the Royals making a statement there.
Yeah, I think that was a really great game by Queens, and you can tell they're excited. They did a great job. We're super powerful, played as a team. You know, you had that chemistry, and I applaud Danny Harlow for the coaching that he did. I loved the set pieces and all the plays that they did. So really great job from Queens.
It was a great game. The Royals took down Mount St. Mary 79-7. This isn't it from the Queens Sports Network of Saturday Rugby. We'll have the men's match, a top 15 battle between top 3 Queens and 14th and 10th, depending on the poll, Belmont Abbey. We'll bring you that at 6 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us. For Emma Claire Cantrell, I'm Nick Kloss saying so long from Dixon Field. The Royals got the win. We'll be back at 6 p.m. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your afternoon.